Today we're going to be talking about how to structure your training during the season. We're going to be talking about standing out at rep trials and how big you need to be as a lock forward. Welcome to episode 60 of Run It Straight. All right, Cal, let's jump straight in.
Let's get into it.
What should a weekly training plan look like during the season? That's all we've got to go by. So first, this depends on what your outcome is. Is your goal to be 100% for every game, every week? Or is your goal to continue to improve, your physical qualities throughout the season? So your physical and athletic qualities throughout the season, because this is something that we talk about a lot. We talk about a lot to a lot of players in our academy. You need to know what your outcome is because there's going to be a different approach.
Yep.
Yes?
Yep, 100%.
So example one, let's say that you're a good player, you're in the top 3 or 4 players in your club side, you'll likely be invited to a trial and you're a fairly good chance of making reps. If that's the case, this person needs to try to manage their training load as best as they can to be 100% or close to it on game day, because they've probably already got the physical qualities of the size, speed, power and whatnot required for their position. And so, at this point, their main goal is just to maintain those qualities during the season and then really work on their skill and their footy IQ and everything else around that. Example number 2 is someone who is, let's say, a little bit lacking. So they're behind the 8 ball. They're not where they need to be from a physical point of view, okay? So they need to work, and this is what we talk about, they need to work just as hard during the season as they do during the off season, almost as hard, right? Because that's the only way for them to be able to bridge the gap, because you need to think of it in terms of the gifted kids, the kids that you're trying to chase and be as good as, they might work really hard in the off season and then they maintain during the season. But if you work really hard in the off season and really hard in the in season, you can start to bridge that strength gap, that power gap, that speed gap, that size gap. And you might have a season or two where you don't play as well, but then when you crank that right back down, you've now gained those physical qualities that you needed that were stopping you from being able to compete. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would say, look at where you're at, as Joe just said. If you feel like you are in a good spot, you're coming up to rep trials, you need to peak for a rep trial or peak for a grand final or something like that, you want to be maxed out, definitely,
But if you're a long way off that,
maintain. If you're a long way off, if you need to drop some body fat, gain some muscle, gain some size, go about that how you would normally train.
So I've got a bit of a rough schedule. This is for, let's say this is that second person, right? The one who's
that out of shape one.
This is a lot of work, right? So let's say you play a game on a Sunday. Monday, you're going to do an upper body weight session. You're going to do a skill session. You're going to work on your mobility. And depending on muscle soreness and how you've gone from the day before, you might even do a speed session, okay? It depends on your muscle soreness, the position you play, and a few of those things. Tuesday, lower body weights, you're doing mobility. You're going to do a position-specific skill session right before you do your club training. Wednesday, off-feet con, skill session and mobility. It's a little bit of a down day. Thursday, we're back, upper weights. You're going to get a speed session in before your club training and then do your club training. And then when you get home watching TV, you can do your mobility work. Notice the mobility work's being done daily. That's how important it is. Friday, lower body weights, skills, off-feet con, mobility session. And then Saturday, the day before the game, you might do a light skills session and you're going to do some mobility work and then you've got your game. That's roughly what I would be saying the workload that someone needs to do who's behind the 8 ball, who needs to spend that time trying to catch up.
Yep.
Now, keep in mind, what I just ran through there, that's a lot of work, right? But this is for someone who's built up to doing this volume of work. This isn't, Steve, who has just come in off the street and hasn't trained before. You're not going to go and give him that amount of work to jump into. Anyone who's less than sort of 6 months, it's going to be a lot less than that workload that I just described. But generally for someone who, they've got some medium and some longer term goals that they're trying to hit, that's kind of what it would look like.
100%.
Now, what about someone who isn't looking, let's say, because he didn't articulate this in his question, what about someone who is just looking to improve? Sorry, not looking to improve, but just simply maintain.
So to maintain. So
how many weight sessions?
So at least 2. So, you can either do 1 upper, 1 lower, or even 2 full body ones. Depending on when you play, whether it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Normally people who are looking to maintain, they're pretty advanced already, so they might even have some Friday night games. So try get that second weight session at least 2 days out of the game to make sure you're going into the game nice and fresh. And then with that, you still want to make sure you're having your skill sessions because you're trying to improve that quality as best as you can.
Yeah, that's something which is the skill you still want to be doing as often as possible.
Yes. Yep.
And it's not particularly taxing.
No, exactly.
Mobility you want to be doing
Yep.
As often as possible. But then some of those other factors, conditioning wise, you got to look at where you're sitting. You know, like if you were to just use, say, the Bronco test as sort of a bit of a pulse to get an idea where you're sitting. If that's at a good level, then you just want to maintain that. And you've got to look at what level of conditioning, how frequently you need to do it during the week to maintain. And again, the same with your speed work.
Yep. And the big thing as well is you're going to have to try fit all of this around your club training. That's going to be the tricky situation. And that's why every person's different. We can't just give you a cookie cutter set Monday through Sunday schedule. You have to make it work around you. But yeah, maintaining 2 weight sessions a week, plenty of skill work, 3 to 4 sessions of skill work, at least 1 speed session on top of all your club training as well. And as Joe said, mobility's just as, if not more important than all of those.
Yeah, there's no reason not to be doing that daily.
Exactly.
It's not physically taxing.
I'm sure everyone has 20 minutes at home where they lie down and watch Netflix before bed. That's 20 minutes of mobility you can get done.
And believe it or not, if you actually do static stretching before bed, it helps to relax the nervous system, makes it easier to sleep. All right, next question. I am 15 years old, 70 kilos, 175 centimeters tall. What can I do to really stand out at rep trials? Would it have been nice if we had a position for this person?
Yeah, 15, 70, 175.
That could be anything at that age. You would assume it's a back.
Back, yeah. Maybe a centre.
It could be a centre, it could be a winger. Look, 70 is probably a little bit more solid than a half.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a half.
Could be a fullback.
Could be, even
be a
pushing
lock
into
forward.
a lock. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So in future, please give us more details.
Yep.
What can I do to really stand out at rep trials? We hear this one a lot. You need to display X factor.
Yes.
Yep. Talked about these things, punishing defence, effort on effort, winning the ruck, whether that's in attack or defence, communication and leadership on the field, running good lines, offloading. A big one is making meters and making post-contact meters. That's one of the big things that stands out the most at trials is when you've got, a forward who takes a hit up and they hit the line and they're digging and they make another 5 or 10 meters after. And you see them do that 2 or 3 times, and the selectors are definitely looking at that. Things like play the ball speed, controlled aggression. If they're seeing someone putting shots on who's going out and they're sort of, hunting and they're looking for people to get after. But look, this is one of those things. We often get asked this question by players who are, they're probably fairly disciplined and fairly hard workers. People with high fitness levels, they've got a good attitude, good work rate, there's a lot of effort off the ball. Unfortunately, those things in and of themselves are not the things that are going to get you picked. The things that stand out are the things that stand out. It's you make a line break, or you get a freakish offload away, or you make, like we said, it's a hit up that you make a whole lot of post-contact meters, or you're an outside back and you have a really long run and they get to see your pace. Those are the kinds of things that stand out. Yes, and I'm not saying, that you don't need a good work rate and relentless attitude and all those other things. 100% you do, but though it's them in addition to 1 or 2 or 3 X factors. 100%. Sometimes an X factor is just, it's a guy who's 6'3" who's got some speed. That's an X factor. Okay, that's something we can work with. And then they start to look for all the little things. But they're not looking for the little things before the big things.
Exactly.
Anything else you wanna...
Well, you can look at NRL teams, right? You look at their best players, what they stand out. Kalen Ponga from Newcastle has a fantastic step. Makes 20 metres a run, just by stepping through
Create
people.
Space outside of him.
Exactly.
Try assist, dangerous every time he runs.
Yeah. And I know that's an extreme example, but he's got that X factor, so everyone recognises him. It's the same as how a selector would look at you. If you've got a good step, use it once or twice, you make a 20-metre run, you can probably bet your bottom dollar that they're looking at you doing that.
That's right.
So yeah, you just have to stand out, and standing out by, big runs, as Joe said. Whether it's a good step that you make a line break with, whether it's, you've got a capability of having good offloads, big shots, big tackles. Yeah, doing the game-breaking stuff in a trial, I think, is going to be the thing that makes you stand
and
out.
It's one of those things we often talk about. We get asked by boys, "Do you think I'm ready to play reps?" And we simply ask, "Are you in the top 3 players in your side?" And if the kinds of things that the top 3 players in your club side do each week, you need to be doing those things in those rep trials. which is for a forward, it might be a lot of big carries, and they might get a few offloads away, and maybe they've got some punishing defence.
Yep.
If it's a half, they're communicating well, they might be throwing, 15, 20 metre, bullet cutout passes that are landing right on the chest. They might be organising, have a good kicking game. If it's an outside back, the opportunities that you get, maybe as a winger, kick reception, and there's some really, really good kick returns, 2 or 3 of those. You're in the right position when you got a hands move and it's moving along the back line at the end of that, and then maybe you're taking a few get out sets. You might be taking some scoots and some hit ups. You're making really good meters, finding your front and getting quick play the balls. They're all the things.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's
100%.
doing your role well and some.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Okay. Next question. Just find where I am. All right. How heavy should I aim to be as a lock that is currently 84 kilos and around 180 centimetres, 16 turning 17? You want to have a crack at this one?
Yeah. Well, first thing is you're growing, 16 turning 17. You're still growing at that age. But I've got a list of 5 locks from the NRL, and you can have a look at their size and see where you compare. Mind you, keeping in mind you're 16. Right. So you've got Cam Murray, 96 kilos, 184 centimetres. Jake Turbo, 185 centimetres, 107 kilos. Paddy Carrigan, 190 centimetres, 105. Ruben Cotter, 95, 180. And then Max Plath at the Dolphins, 87, 178. So the reason I've listed all 5 of those players is there's a massive size difference between all of them. Right? You've got the tall ones, you've got the short nuggety ones, you've got the ones that are a little bit heavier, the ones that are lighter. Okay, so lock's probably one of those positions where there's a bit of variety in terms of the size of the player. But in saying that though, you're 16 turning 17, so if you can gain 6, 7, possibly even 8 kilos, get to that 94, 92 to 94 kilos.
Turning 17, he's still Harold Matz.
He's still Harold Matz. That's Harold Matz this year.
Yeah, look, and 84 is...
84 is a good size.
Yeah, that's a good look. If you put some work in and get yourself, even if you get by, let me think, you got about 5 months till trials? If you gain 2 or 3 kilos, if you're in high 80s, you're fine.
Yeah.
Harold Matz, that's... And look, we don't know what your body fat level is. You could be, skinny fat, chunky monkey. But look, taking that aside, like Cal said, there's a lot of variation there, particularly within that position.
Yep.
You're in the ballpark, so look, do what you need to do from a gym point of view, but I don't think that you need to get all stressed out that you're not big enough. You just make sure you're a good enough footballer.
That's it.
So do what you need to be doing in the gym with your food to try to add on literally a couple of kilos, but make sure the rest of your game is on point. Because look, if you were saying you were 79 or 80 kilos, we'd both be like, you've got to gain weight.
size.
That's got to be a big focus the next 5 months. But
100%.
You're actually in a pretty good zone right there. So look, as is with the information you've given us, I would say try to get to 86 or 87 by what is it, September, October, which is when
October. So 5 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then I think you will be in a good spot.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you gain size and you want to gain size, it's better to do it slower, longer. You're not going to gain as much unwanted weight in terms of body fat.
And have to spend so much time getting rid of it.
Exactly. And you're only 16, so age is on your side. You've got plenty of time.
Yep.
Yeah, sweet.
Cool.
Awesome.
We are done. That's
all
the
done.
end of it. Okay, so
Beautiful.
Please like, subscribe, send comments in the comment section, because that's where comments go. You can also send me questions, DMs, and Instagram. I do answer all of those. That's me personally. It's not a bot, as some people have asked. No, I sit there and I answer all of those questions in as much detail as possible. But yeah, other than that, we will see you in the next one.